Well, as you can see, I've got the canvas toned here with some, this is just burnt umber. And now, oddly, going to go right into some black. Kind of a weird way to start the painting. We're going to be painting our darkest area of the forest first. And if you're looking forward to seeing this slightly different painting, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more painting videos. Also click the bell so that you'll be notified when I do put up the next video. That works, see that? Now this brown is dry. And throughout this whole painting, I'm going to be using some of my foundation medium there. It's just clear medium you can mix in, and it helps the paint to kind of flow along. It doesn't really change much about the drying time or anything like that. It just helps the paint to flow well. A little better than water. So I've got some just in a little, because it's fairly thin, I put some in a little cup down there. Well, that's that. We're just gonna get that kind of the darkness, you know, put more in than you want, because you can easily cover it. And this is just a beautiful backdrop to some of our brighter trees. The trees are actually gonna be fairly bright. It's going to be very high contrast, and I think you guys will enjoy seeing that. At least I'm looking forward to the kind of high contrast. Now maybe over there maybe we'll just sort of put there some yellow ochre, whatever. Just throw in some lighter tones. This is just background tones. We'll put our highlight on top. So now let's drop in some trees. Of course, that's a good way to get a forest going, isn't it? That's a good first step here to building out our forest. I like it. I like it a lot. We'll be changing the colors slightly. And I actually have some red mixed in, some blue. Just see how kind of muddled colors. That's an awfully blue tree. Maybe we'll make that not quite so blue. But it is okay to have some, oh, I like that one. Some shadowy trees. Absolutely. Why not? It's not gonna hurt it. If you ever do one you don't like, you just cover it. Super forgiving. In fact, speaking of just covering, missed a spot. sometimes it wouldn't really matter, but since it's black, it's so dark, it kind of stands out, doesn't it? So there you go. Hey, before you set your brushes down on the table, dip them into the water and then put them on the table, otherwise they dry. Believe me, you'll turn around, you go get a cup of coffee or something, you'll come back and your brushes will be dry. It's not a fun day. So definitely dip them in the water. It'll give you a lot of time. Well, you know, be careful. It'll give you some time. Don't want anybody mad at me. Hey, that works. Okay. Maybe a few just right in there. A few, not too many. I get in here with a little more. Hey, can we do a gray? I guess. Why not? I'd say the more colors you do in your trees, the better they're gonna look. Why can't we stick some gray in there? Oh, it's already drying. Dries quick with my lights, but that's okay. Really wasn't planning on doing the highlight just yet, but sometimes it just happens. You ever been there, you weren't planning to do something, and all of a sudden, kind of without thinking about it, you find, oops, I'm doing it, and it's halfway done. Yeah. So, anyway, I guess we might as well keep going. So I love these like dead branches and stuff that are hanging off. These are evergreen trees, clearly. Just by the branches. You can make them whatever trees you want in your version. Speaking of versions, we better look at your paintings from last week, the ones that you guys did of the painting last week. Definitely share your version of this painting using the hashtag on the screen. We'll get it in the next video. I've got my flat blender brush here right through some of our lighter colors. And none of this has been thinned down. And my brush is, although it has been in water, I dried it off pretty good. This works better when the brush is dry. But I mean, you know what? Here, take an extra minute. Look at this palette. Look at this palette. I actually need some more of my yellow out, but look how I'm stippling. See how that palette looks almost like a tree? If your palette looks like a tree, then your canvas is gonna look like a tree. See that? Looks like a tree to me. All right, here you go. We're gonna just lightly stipple on some of these highlights. Would not be a bad idea because this is really just background material. I'm going to have more leaves on top of this, but it's important to layer our foliage in a way that's thoughtful, but it wouldn't be bad to, this is a number 4 bristle brush, the natural bristle. I'm going to wet it with a little water. Background is dry. Make sure that it's dry or it'll cut right through it, and you'll have to repaint. That's okay, but I mean, rather not. And I might just use that wet edge of the brush to just feather out any areas that I want to, kind of put the paint on and feather it out. See that? a little more background-like, a little less perfect maybe, a little less stamped on. I know this seems kind of out of control, and it's partly because it is out of control, but it's out of control in a way that we'll be all right. We will be all right. Most important thing here is you work in very small sections of about an inch, inch and a half. The other really important thing is if there's not enough to talk about, is be sure, absolutely sure that your background is dry. I cannot tell you how many times I have painting acrylics. Well, I'll just try to rush it a little bit. Ugh, always regret it. Always regret it. You cut right through that. It needs to dry real good. Hey, that looks pretty decent. That's a good kind of a backgroundy mess, and I like that. A little yellow ochre. Why? I don't know, because it looks good. Because it looks good. Just have a little yellow ochre hit there. You know, I'm going to have this covered mostly with other stuff. There you go. Put that there. Get my other brush. You just see how I'm kind of working my layers. Working my layers. Yeah. Nice. Now, as far as this is concerned down here, let's get this little grass highlight coming through so you can actually see where that light is just pouring through the painting. We'll need several layers on this. We'll put it on and let it dry. And work around the tree delicately. I don't want too much light in the forest that would throw off the effect. So now I've got kind of a similar color mixed up. This is a little more yellow ochre-y, I'd say. That'd be good for variety. And I've got the number 4 bristle brush on this one, because these are kind of it's all foliage, but this is kind of a different look I'm going for here in these trees versus on the left, because the left is just layers. It's just going to be a lot of layers of the same colors, the same stuff. But over here, it's going to be more of the finished product. See, just stippling, kind of going slow. It's just creating some of these beautiful leaves. Honestly, that's about all you need to pay attention to that shape. You kind of want that arced shape. Looks good. It looks very evergreen-like, doesn't it? That droopy shape, it's pretty. It works. Make sure you get plenty of leaves going on here at the top. Plenty of leaves. You want it to basically be swallowed up by the leaves at the top. There, I think that helps kind of add to the forest canopy effect, or the forest canopy kind of illusion that we got going. I like it. Now I've got a nice light blue color. And it's not perfectly light blue, though. I do have just a little red in it, and that's kind of important. I think that red just softens it a little. There's no sky that we can see, but it's clearly a blue sky, bright, sunny day. Very, very clear there. But you can see I've got my riverbed. Now, I will say, this is the round brush. My favorite brush for painting acrylic clouds, actually. It's good for just blending edges. Any edges you need to have blended. I will say this, water is easier in oil, except for riverbeds, because the riverbeds require so much layering, and it's nice to have the brown riverbed and then your blue water on top without the mixing. Very nice. So we will take full advantage of that today, get a lot of good layering. A little bit of a kind of a rapid there. Hey, listen, put this water in wherever you want it, and then change the land around it so that it matches, That tree may need to come up, because the tree's not growing in the water, so the tree may need to come up a little. I'm ignoring the tree. Nice. And you know what? We have right over here, we have a waterfall. Let's jump right over there. You can do this with a flat brush. You can do this with just about any of those brushes, and tell you what, this has been dry for a while, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to angle my mister bottle down. I'm just going to give it a quickie, light mist, not too much. Not too much. I don't want to hit up there. That's still wet. Just get that in. Just get it in fairly quick, You have tons and tons of opportunity to make changes, Just get the initial shape in there. See how you like it. See what you want to change. Don't mist it again like I just did. Do not do that again until it's fully dry, though. I know, halfway in, oh, I'll do it again. No, don't do it again. You'll mess up what you just put down. But that looks pretty good as it is. A little bit going over there. Oh, I'm not sure that was fully dry, this spot there, but that's okay. And then over here, just some more rapids. I like these little rapids today. I think that's really cool. Maybe not so straight. Maybe bring them out a little. Good. I felt like the water was missing something. So you know me, changed it completely. And I think it looks better. And we'll need to, of course, put it back in, but it was missing some rocks. We need some rocks in there. It's one of those things you can do with acrylic. So easy. You can do it with oil, and I have done it with oil. But it's easier with acrylic because you don't have to worry about the rocks disappearing underwater when you go to put some highlight on them. So there you go. There's a secret to this, and it's something that I couldn't get my head around for a long time when I first started painting. Sometimes I still forget to do it when I do my underwater rocks versus above water rocks. What you need to do is just take a quick look here. Make them different colors. Usually the ones out of the water are more gray, and the ones under the water are more kind of yellowy or have a green cast to them. Mine here kind of yellowy. You see how that makes that look already without doing anything to it, look kind of like it's underwater, and this is not. And it makes a difference. So definitely do not skip that when you're doing, underwater versus out of water rocks. It looks better if you do that. The distinct change of color for the ones that are out of the water. And usually, again, they're kind of more gray and less warm, or less yellowy or green. There you go. A few here just to help kind of set the stage. Those will be pretty. Those were not in my original plan. As you know, I kind of plan out my paintings somewhat before I start. This was not in my plan to do rocks like this. And that makes it even better, doesn't it? Makes it even better. Get just a few kind of rocks in here. I just think it adds something. What do you think? Does it add something? Or is it kind of unnecessary? You tell me what you think. I'll be looking in the comments. I feel like it adds a little something. I don't know. It's not going to make or break the painting. I definitely not get. I get that. But I like just a little. Sometimes it's the little things that count. Even if it's just you that enjoy seeing what you added. It matters. I like those, and I think that's helping to establish a riverbank a little better. Well, something a little different has happened. Actually, several days have passed since the last scene that you just watched. So anyway, I'm coming back to this. This is an acrylic painting, and so, it dries anyways. Now, if you were doing this in oil, for instance, you wouldn't want to do that because then your paint would dry and it would be completely different. But I went ahead and reset my palette just because, of course, everything was dry. And I've kind of forgotten where I was at, so I'm not sure. We're just going to jump back into it and try to pick up where I left off. And we may go in a different direction because, it's a new time here and something else might happen. So it's kind of interesting. Maybe because it is different, in oil, maybe sometime we'll do a video where we let it dry halfway through, and I'll show you how to pick it back up. There's a couple of tricks you can use to make it wet, in certain areas that you need to. So we'll see. Tell me if you're interested in that. But anyway, okay, here we go. We're going to take some yellow. And I think I'm going to work on the moss. It looks like I did not finish the moss. This is a tree here. So let's go ahead and just place on some moss to this tree. Again, this is acrylic. Everything was dry anyway, so we're just kind of jumping right back in. Well, I like that. See, there's advantages and disadvantages to acrylic, of course, like there's just about anything. But I do enjoy that. There's no pressure. You don't have to, I got to get this painting done before it dries. I can't walk away for more than, you can walk away for a day and a half with oil before it starts to set up. But with acrylic, it doesn't matter. I like that little mossy log there. I think that works. We'll work at kind of combining those two together. But let's do some more trees in here as well. Let me just continue kind of placing a little more of this moss where we think we need it. That'd be that. A little bit on these rocks. It's a fairly mossy, very mossy area. I love how wet it looks. Now I've got an intense yellow, and I've actually just added a little there, but I want to add some more right here. This intense yellow. It'll look like sunlight, and it's better to do this now before we pull our trees down over it. For once, maybe we'll go in order. Just once. I don't think it's going to happen again anytime soon, but there you go. There you go. You go in any order that you need to in order to make this work. Sometimes going out of order is definitely the best way to do it. Just helps sometimes seeing the painting, and that's half the battle, is seeing the painting, if you know what I mean. So I keep continually misting my palette here, and that just keeps it from drying out. That's something that's important you don't want to forget to do. So I've got kind of almost a purpley tone. There's some brown to it, I'd say. Not too sure. Kind of threw a bunch of color together. All right, let's see right here. We're going to place in a couple of nice dark trees right in the foreground. That works. They're water-based acrylic. I've got no issues with getting my fingers in there to blend it. That's a good blending tool. I like that shape. I like that shape. You know, you can just literally spray some water into the mix to thin it down if you want to. The foundation medium is probably better, but sometimes I just put a little water in it. That's all it takes. Just depends on what you're doing. Just depends on what you're doing. Nice. All right, let's see, maybe another one. I like the idea of having several. You know, it'll help to balance those trees in the background. You would expect to see a lot of trees here, even in the foreground. Absolutely. Keeping that brush wet will help you get a nicer, cleaner edge, especially as you come closer. You want your trees to be a little crisper. Yep, that works. Just playing around with different textures. Very important. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bring a tree in front of all this mess. In fact, right over this big one here, and we'll separate him with highlight. You'll be able to tell which one is which, because we're only going to highlight one, really. The other might just get a little, not much. High contrast. Isn't that fun? Look at this. All right, we'll put some branches on this and some leaves, but for now, what a good start. What a good start. Oh, one over here too. Why not? That really frames in the painting. It makes it interesting and kind of just helps to keep your center of interest more in the middle, framing the painting a little bit with these trees. You don't want to make it look kind of silly, but we're making it look organic and still framing it in. So I'm going to place on now just a bit of our highlight to these trees. I'm not going to go crazy. In fact, it's a fairly cool highlight, as you can see. Fairly cool. I don't want too much. See it, there it is. More of almost a purple that I mixed up here for the highlight, which works. See that? But again, not too much, not too much. I want to remain a little bit shadowy here because, after all, you can't have the whole painting bright. That's so boring. You got to have these areas of some nicer shadows and some nicer contrast areas just to make it more interesting and more dynamic. Yep. Maybe a little bit on this one. Okay. Yep. So it just takes a few touches, and we can refine that later when we see how much of these trees actually shows up with the branches over them. Kind of, sometimes I try to avoid doing the trees entirely or going too far with my detail before I know exactly what parts are going to be showing, because I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it too. You work hard, you end up covering it. So try not to do that. So now I'm going to place in some foliage here to these larger trees. I got the flat blender brush for this. The fan brush may be a better choice, but I'll do a little bit with this and maybe a little bit with the fan brush. I'm not going to worry too much about it. It's mostly dark, honestly. It's mostly dark, so it's not critical that it's perfect. Not that we could get it perfect if we wanted to, you know, but that looks pretty decent. It looks pretty decent. These are these trees here, and then this big one as well, but not as much on that big one. Yeah, that works. Works. All right, we'll definitely need to work with that. That's not finished. That's not great, but it's not bad, you know. Kind of frame in the top here as well. Same idea. Same idea. Get a little more green. Yeah, that totally works. Totally works. Just kind of frame it in. Add a little bit of extra foliage texture on these evergreens. Remember, these are evergreens, so keep that evergreen shape going. Yeah. leave a lot of room for these dead ones here. I think these dead ones are going to add so much more character than just having the whole thing regular, you know, with a bunch of evergreen needles. Well, now I'm going to add in some of the final details, and there's going to be a lot of final details. So I'm going to use the liner brush, and because this is acrylic, you don't have to worry about where you're going or what you're doing with the liner brush, because it'll dry in a matter of a few minutes, and you can paint over it with anything you like, including more dark and then more highlight. It won't matter. You can do that. You can do highlight and shadow all day long, and you'll never mix mud because it dries. I mean, it's an advantage. You might as well take advantage of the advantage, if you know what I mean. There. So we're going to add in these details, maybe, you know, before we highlight the tree. Who cares? I can put, look, I can put liner brush up in the tree even before I go to highlight that tree, because it'll dry and it just doesn't matter. So big advantage. We're taking advantage of it. Now, one thing I will say, you have to constantly be adding water to your color. There's my color right there. You have to keep adding water to it every few minutes because it evaporates so quickly, especially if you got an air conditioner going or something like that. But there, that's starting to work. That is definitely starting to work. Just building it up, you know, hey, here's some yellow ochre. If it doesn't come flowing off the brush like the way you'd want it, most of the time you probably have to thin it down. Occasionally you'll get too much water in there, but most of the time you have to thin it down more. It takes about 4 brush loads of water to get a little tiny blob of paint thin enough to use. It really just needs to flow out effortlessly. If it's not can't speak. If it's not effortless, you know that there's something going on with your paint mix, because it really is effortless. I'd say the hard part about liner brush painting is getting the mix right all the time. But that's nothing that a little practice can't fix, right? Liner brush is such an easy tool to practice. You just practice it on your palette if you want to. Because if you can draw a line on your palette, you can draw a line on your canvas. That works. And then, you know, do the little, you know, I like to do those little dots and little seed pods, leaves, flowers, whatever. Do it all with the liner brush right here. Add in detail, add in texture. Just grab some yellow. You can paint with thick paint just by dabbing with the brush like that. Kind of nice. See that? Just paint with some thick paint. Get some yellow stuff happening. A leaf or two. Watch this. Just go crazy with detail. Why not? Right in here, a leaf or two. Doing these close-up leaves, I think, just adds something to the painting. I really do. Cool. Well, we'll just continue doing a lot of the same things. Branches, grass, maybe some flowers, but it's all the same thing. All the same strokes, all the same techniques, really, just different colors. So now I'm going to place in here just some highlight to these Foreground Evergreens. I've got the little number 4 bristle brush. This is the one that's very rough, natural bristle. Yeah, that works. Good. A little bit challenging when everything is yellow. It's a yellow painting, yellow greens everywhere. A little challenging sometimes to make things stand out. So we rely on, watch this, we rely on the background contrast. See that? Now these trees are a little more to the blue side. This foreground tree, a little more to the yellow-white side. See the difference? A little yellow ochre in there as well, that kind of like golden color. This one's a little cooler, this one's a little warmer. And that helps. These are the limbs that are just right here. See this like line of just highlight burning through there? So they're right within that line of highlight. That's why they're so bright. A lot of paint, more paint than brush. I'm barely touching this canvas. You have to come off. So that we have these open textures. You start getting in here and smashing. You won't mix mud, but you'll have one big blob. Just be one solid stroke. We're not interested in one solid stroke today. So there you go. That's how you avoid it. I know it can happen sometimes. Also, how you load the brush is important. Kind of mash it in. Helps a little. Helps a lot. It didn't help a little. What am I saying? There. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now you will quickly completely ruin this effect if you go up too far with this bright highlight. So I'm going to keep it down here. That's nice, right? That's nice right there. Excellent. It's probably good enough. In fact, this one I'm struggling. See, these I really like those, but this one I'm kind of struggling to integrate. So let me get a little bit more of a darker, because it's getting darker up here. A darker highlight. What a difference. See how that kind of integrates that a little better. Oh, yes, it does. Nice. Stand back. Make sure you like what you're doing from far away. It always looks good close up. Well, it doesn't always look good close up, but it always looks different close up. You know, you could, oh, this looks great. You stand back. Ooh, what happened? Always be checking from far away, 6 feet away, across the room, whatever you can do. There we go. Little tiny touch of a blue in there, maybe a little tiny touch of a red in there. Paint's starting to, wow, the paint's drying. Make sure you're misting constantly or you will lose the paint. There. That works. We'll just continue doing that. To these trees, maybe not quite as bright. Kind of go with this color maybe. Well, that about wraps it up for this acrylic painting. It's amazing how it really comes together when you add those final details. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing it. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, and brush line. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. That helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.